What happens when a simple game show answer goes so wrong that the host has to stop everything and question your entire existence? You're about to witness one of the most jaw-dropping moments in Family Feud history, where Steve Harvey completely loses it, and a contestant wishes the floor would swallow them whole. The studio lights blazed hot under the California sun as another taping day began at the Family Feud set in Los Angeles. The energy was electric as always, with two families ready to battle it out for cash prizes and bragging rights. On one side stood the Morrison family from Austin, Texas, a group of 5 that included patriarch Dale Morrison, a 42-year-old insurance salesman with a nervous smile and sweat already forming on his forehead despite the air conditioning pumping through the studio. His wife Linda stood beside him along with their 3 adult children, all wearing matching blue shirts that read, "Morrison Crew" in bold white letters. On the opposite side, the Chen family from San Francisco looked confident and composed, dressed in coordinated red outfits that made them look like a unified force ready for victory. Steve Harvey strutted onto the stage in his signature 3-piece suit, this one a sharp charcoal gray with a purple tie that popped under the studio lights. His presence commanded attention, as he greeted both families with his trademark humor and charm, making jokes about Dale's nervous energy and complimenting Mrs. Chen on her confident stance. The audience roared with laughter as Steve worked the room like the seasoned professional he was, setting the tone for what everyone expected to be another entertaining episode of America's favorite game show. The cameras rolled, the theme music played, and the game officially began with both families approaching the podium for the first face-off question. If you're loving this chaos, hit that subscribe button right now and smash that hype button because it seriously helps us bring you more incredible content like this. Drop a comment telling us the craziest thing you've ever said under pressure, and let's build this community together. Your support means everything. The first few rounds went smoothly enough, with both families trading points back and forth in typical Family Feud fashion. The Morrison family managed to win the second face-off and chose to play, giving them control of the board. The question seemed innocent enough as Steve read from his card with his usual dramatic flair. Name something you might find in a woman's purse that would surprise you if you found it in a man's bag. The audience chuckled at the setup, knowing this was prime territory for awkward or funny answers. Linda Morrison went first, suggesting wallet, which was already on the board at number 5. Their daughter Jessica followed with makeup, earning them the number 3 answer. The family was building momentum, and confidence radiated from their matching blue shirts as they high-fived each other between answers. Then it was Dale's turn, and this is where everything changed. Steve turned to him with the microphone extended, and that encouraging smile he gives every contestant waiting for what he assumed would be another straightforward answer. Dale stood there for a moment, his face scrunched up in concentration, as if he was solving a complex mathematical equation rather than answering a simple survey question. The studio fell into that familiar anticipatory silence, where everyone waits to hear what the contestant will say. Dale opened his mouth and with complete confidence said something that made the entire studio gasp in unison. A pregnancy test. The words hung in the air like a bomb that hadn't exploded yet, and for a split second nobody moved. Steve Harvey's face went through approximately 7 different emotions in 3 seconds flat. His eyes widened to the size of dinner plates, his mouth dropped open, and his hand that was holding the microphone slowly lowered, as if his arm had forgotten how to function. The audience erupted into a mixture of shocked laughter, gasps, and confused murmurs, while the Morrison family stood frozen in their matching shirts, looking like they wanted to disappear into the floor. Steve took 2 steps back from Dale, as if physical distance would help him process what he just heard, then took 2 steps forward again, pointing at Dale with his free hand, while his face contorted into an expression of pure disbelief mixed with comedic horror. Hold on. Steve said, his voice rising with each repetition as he held up both hands to stop everything. The production crew knew better than to cut away when Steve went into one of his legendary reactions, so the cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of what was about to become viral gold. Steve looked directly at Dale, then at the audience, then back at Dale again, as if confirming that everyone else had heard the same thing he did. "Did you just say a pregnancy test?" Steve asked slowly, enunciating each word like he was speaking to someone who might not understand English. Dale nodded, still somehow maintaining his confident expression, apparently not yet realizing the magnitude of what he had just unleashed. Steve put his hand on his bald head, a gesture he made famous over years of hosting when contestants said things that broke his brain. He walked in a small circle, muttering to himself while the audience's laughter grew louder. Sir Steve began turning back to Dale with the microphone raised like a weapon of interrogation. "I need you to explain something to me right now. Why, in the name of all that is holy, would a man have a pregnancy test in his bag?" The way Steve emphasized the word man made it clear he was genuinely struggling to understand the logic behind this answer. Dale's confidence finally started to crack as he realized he might have made a tactical error in his response. "Well," Steve Dale stammered, his Texas accent becoming more pronounced under pressure. "I was thinking maybe he bought it for his girlfriend or wife and just hasn't given it to her yet, so it's still in his bag." The explanation somehow made things worse instead of better, and Steve's face reflected this reality perfectly. He stared at Dale with an expression that suggested he was reconsidering every life choice that led him to this moment on this stage with this particular contestant. The audience was in complete hysterics now, with some people doubled over in their seats, while others wiped tears from their eyes. "So let me get this straight," Steve said, adopting the tone of a detective interrogating a suspect. "You're telling me that a man went to the store, bought a pregnancy test, put it in his bag, and then just forgot about it? Just walking around with a pregnancy test like it's a pack of gum or a phone charger?" Dale nodded weakly, realizing there was no good way out of this situation. The Morrison family behind him looked like they were experiencing a collective out-of-body experience, with Linda covering her face with her hands and their children staring at their father with expressions that screamed, "Dad, what have you done?" Steve wasn't finished, though, because when Steve Harvey gets going on a contestant, there's no stopping the comedic avalanche. He turned to the audience with his arms spread wide as if presenting evidence in a court case. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "can you imagine reaching into a man's bag for a pen and pulling out a pregnancy test?" The audience roared their approval of this imagery, and Steve fed off their energy like a performer hitting his stride. "What kind of conversation is that?" Steve continued, adopting different voices to act out the scenario. "Hey bro, can I borrow your charger? Sure, it's in my bag right next to my pregnancy test." The studio erupted again, and even the Chen family on the opposite side was laughing so hard they had to hold on to each other for support. Dale stood there taking the roasting like a good sport, though his face had turned a shade of red that matched the Chen family's outfits. Steve walked back over to him and put a hand on his shoulder in a gesture that was somehow both sympathetic and mocking at the same time. Dale, Steve said, shaking his head. "I've been hosting this show for years and I have heard some wild answers, but this right here, this is top 5 all time." The audience applauded this declaration, and Steve milked the moment for everything it was worth. He looked directly into the camera with that knowing expression he perfected over decades in entertainment. "Y'all at home are witnessing history right now," he said. "This is the kind of answer that's going to be in Family Feud compilations for the next 20 years. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of roasting, Steve composed himself enough to actually check if the answer was on the board, though everyone in the studio knew it wouldn't be. He turned to face the board with dramatic flair and said, "Show me pregnancy test," with the exact intonation he used for every answer. The familiar buzzer sound effect rang out, indicating the answer was not there, and the audience groaned in sympathetic disappointment, though they were still laughing. "That's one strike," Steve announced, and the Morrison family now had to regroup and try to salvage the round with 2 strikes looming over them like a dark cloud. The game continued, but the energy had completely shifted, and everyone in that studio knew they had just witnessed something special, something that would be clipped, edited, and shared across every social media platform within hours of the episode airing. The Morrison family tried to recover from Dale's catastrophic answer, but the damage was done both to their confidence and their chances of winning the round. Jessica, their youngest daughter, went next and suggested keys, which dinged on the board at number 7, giving them a small victory and a brief moment of redemption. But the relief was short-lived, because their son Marcus followed with an answer that wasn't on the board, giving them their second strike. The pressure mounted as the family huddled together, whispering frantically, trying to come up with something that would keep them alive in the round. Linda stepped up next, her face still flushed from secondhand embarrassment over her husband's answer, and suggested phone, which was already revealed at number 1. The board lit up, and the family celebrated like they had just won the lottery, even though they were simply avoiding elimination. Steve watched the whole thing with his arms crossed and that signature smirk that said he wasn't done with Dale Morrison, not by a long shot. Every time the camera cut back to Steve between answers, He would glance over at Dale and shake his head slowly, as if still processing the pregnancy test comment. The audience picked up on this and started laughing preemptively whenever Steve looked in Dale's direction, creating a feedback loop of comedy that the producers knew was absolute gold for ratings. The round eventually ended with the Morrison family managing to avoid 3 strikes and putting up a respectable score of 184 points on the board. The Chen family got their chance to steal, and successfully did so by guessing tissues, which was the number 2 answer, sending them into the lead. As the game progressed through several more rounds, Steve couldn't resist bringing up Dale's answer at every possible opportunity. During a commercial break that the studio audience witnessed but viewers at home wouldn't see, Steve walked over to Dale and in front of everyone asked him if he had checked his bag lately for any surprise pregnancy tests. The audience erupted again, and Dale laughed along, proving he could take the joke even though his face suggested he wanted to crawl into a hole. Linda playfully smacked her husband on the arm while their kids recorded the whole interaction on their phones, knowing this was going to be a family story told at every gathering for generations to come. The game eventually came down to fast money, the final round, where one family member plays first, followed by their partner, trying to reach a combined score of 200 points to win the cash prize. The Chen family had won the main game and selected their strongest players for this crucial moment. They performed admirably, with their first contestant scoring 168 points, setting up their partner for an easy victory. The second Chen family member only needed 32 points and achieved it with 3 answers to spare. The family celebrated their win, jumping up and down in their coordinated red outfits, while Steve congratulated them with genuine warmth and enthusiasm. The Morrison family applauded graciously from the sidelines, though Dale still looked like he was recovering from his earlier public roasting. But Steve Harvey wasn't finished with Dale Morrison, because as the show wrapped up and Steve gave his closing remarks, he made sure to immortalize this moment one final time. "Before we go," Steve announced to the camera, "I just want to say to all the men watching at home, please check your bags right now. And if you find a pregnancy test in there, you need to call this show immediately because we need to have a conversation." The audience gave one last roar of laughter, and Dale raised his hand in acknowledgement, accepting his fate as a Family Feud legend. Steve pointed at him with both hands and said, "Dale Morrison, everybody, the man who taught us all to check our bags more carefully." The studio erupted in applause, and even Dale couldn't help but laugh at himself, fully embracing the absurdity of the situation. After the cameras stopped rolling and the official taping concluded, something interesting happened that the television audience would never see. Steve Harvey walked over to the Morrison family and spent several minutes talking with them off camera. According to people who were in the studio that day, Steve told Dale that his answer, while completely ridiculous, was exactly the kind of unexpected moment that made Family Feud special. He explained that in all his years of hosting the show, the answers that seemed the most absurd in the moment often became the most memorable and beloved by fans. Steve even took a selfie with Dale and posted it on his social media later that evening, with a caption that read, "Sometimes the best moments on Family Feud are the ones that make absolutely no sense. And this man right here gave us one for the history books." The episode aired 3 weeks later on a Thursday night, and within minutes of Dale's pregnancy test answer hitting television screens, the internet exploded. Twitter erupted with reactions, memes, and commentary about the moment, with hashtags like PregnancyTestGate and Check Your Bag trending within the hour. YouTube clips of the segment were uploaded by multiple channels and quickly racked up millions of views as people shared the moment with friends and family who had missed the original broadcast. Reaction videos popped up across social media platforms, with content creators filming themselves, watching Dale's answer and Steve's subsequent meltdown. The consensus was universal. This was peak Family Feud chaos and exactly why people loved the show. Dale Morrison became an overnight internet celebrity in the strangest way possible. His social media accounts, which had been relatively quiet before the episode aired, suddenly gained thousands of followers. People tagged him in memes, created fan art of the moment, and even started selling unofficial merchandise with phrases like, "I'm with pregnancy test guy," printed on t-shirts. Dale handled the attention with good humor, posting his own jokes about the situation, and even creating a video where he dramatically checked his actual bag to confirm there were no pregnancy tests inside. The video went viral in its own right, proving that Dale understood how to ride the wave of internet fame. Linda Morrison gave interviews to local Texas news stations about the experience, and revealed that the family had watched the episode together at home with extended family and friends. She described the living room erupting in laughter when Dale's answer aired, and said that her husband had rewound the DVR at least 10 times to watch Steve's reaction over and over. Their children posted behind-the-scenes photos from the taping day and shared stories about how nervous their father had been before the show, which made his confident delivery of such an absurd answer even funnier in retrospect. The Morrison family's 15 minutes of fame extended well beyond what they had expected when they applied to be on Family Feud, and they embraced every moment of it. Steve Harvey himself referenced the moment multiple times in subsequent episodes of Family Feud, often using it as a benchmark for other wild answers. Whenever a contestant said something particularly outrageous, Steve would pause and say, "That's crazy, but it's not pregnancy test in a man's bag," crazy establishing a new scale for measuring absurd responses. The show's producers loved this because it created continuity and inside jokes that regular viewers appreciated. They even put together a special compilation episode months later featuring the most shocking answers in Family Feud history, and Dale's pregnancy test moment was featured prominently with additional commentary from Steve recorded specifically for the special. The incident also sparked genuine conversations online about the nature of game show pressure and why people say the things they do when put on the spot in front of cameras and live audiences. Psychologists weighed in on social media explaining how stress and adrenaline can cause the brain to make unusual connections and blurt out answers that seem logical in the moment but absurd in retrospect. Dale became a sympathetic figure in these discussions, with many people sharing their own stories of saying something ridiculous under pressure, whether in job interviews, first dates, or other high-stakes situations. The pregnancy test answer transformed from just a funny moment into a cultural touchstone about human behavior and the unpredictable nature of live television. Family Feud's ratings saw a noticeable bump in the weeks following the episode's airing as word of mouth spread and people tuned in, hoping to witness another moment of similar chaos. The show's social media accounts capitalized on this by posting clips and behind-the-scenes content featuring Steve's best reactions to outrageous answers. Dale's moment was featured repeatedly in these promotional materials, and the engagement numbers were consistently high, proving that audiences had an insatiable appetite for this type of unscripted, authentic comedy. The producers took note, and some insiders suggested that the show's screening process for contestants might have been adjusted slightly to favor people who seemed likely to provide entertaining, unpredictable answers. 6 months after the episode aired, Dale Morrison received an unexpected invitation to return to Family Feud for a special Champions episode featuring families who had become fan favorites, regardless of whether they had won their original games. The Morrison family accepted immediately, knowing this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to redeem themselves and create new memories. When they returned to the studio, Steve Harvey greeted Dale like an old friend, immediately joking about whether he had brought any pregnancy tests with him this time. The audience, who had been informed that the Morrison family was returning, gave them a standing ovation before the game even began, proving that Dale's viral moment had earned them genuine affection from fans. During this return appearance, Dale was determined to redeem himself and provide answers that were both correct and sensible. The family performed much better in their second outing, demonstrating that they actually knew how to play the game when not paralyzed by nerves and the pressure of the moment. They made it to Fast Money and came heartbreakingly close to winning, falling just 12 points short of the $200 needed for the grand prize. Despite not winning the cash, the Morrison family left the studio with their heads held high, knowing they had proven they were more than just one viral answer. Steve made sure to acknowledge their improvement and gave Dale props for not saying anything about pregnancy tests during the entire episode, which got a huge laugh from everyone present. The legacy of "You Said What" continues to live on in Family Feud history and in the broader landscape of game show moments that transcend their original context. Dale Morrison's pregnancy test answer has been featured in countless online articles about the funniest game show moments of all time, and is frequently referenced in pop culture discussions about live television chaos. Steve Harvey himself has said in interviews that moments like these are why he loves hosting Family Feud, because you genuinely never know what's going to come out of a contestant's mouth, and that unpredictability creates magic that scripted television can never replicate. For Dale and Linda Morrison, life eventually returned to normal in Austin, though they're still occasionally recognized in public by Family Feud fans who want to talk about the pregnancy test moment. Dale has fully embraced his status as a game show legend and keeps a framed photo from the taping in his office at the insurance company where he works. His co-workers initially gave him endless grief about the answer, but it eventually became a point of pride and a great icebreaker when meeting new clients. Linda jokes that she can't take her husband anywhere without someone asking if he's checked his bag lately, but she says it with affection, knowing that the experience brought their family closer together and gave them a story that will be passed down through generations. The Chen family, who actually won that episode, often gets overlooked in discussions about the game, but they've made peace with being footnotes in someone else's viral moment. In interviews they've given, they express nothing but good humor about the situation and admit that Dale's answer made the episode far more memorable than it would have been otherwise. They still have their prize money and the satisfaction of having won, but they acknowledge that the Morrison family won something perhaps more valuable in the age of social media, a moment of genuine viral fame that brought joy to millions of people. Hey my friends, help me by subscribing to the channel so we can reach 1,000 subscribers, even if you're watching from your TV or computer. Your subscription makes all the difference, and the algorithm will help you see more amazing stories. Leave a like or an emoji in the comments and be part of this growth. As the lights dimmed on another day of Family Feud taping, and the crew began breaking down the set for the evening, one thing remained crystal clear. The magic of live television lies not in perfection, but in those unexpected, unscripted moments when real people say real things that make absolutely no sense, and a legendary host like Steve Harvey is there to capture the absurdity for all of us to enjoy. Dale Morrison's pregnancy test answer will forever be a testament to the beautiful chaos that happens when you put ordinary people under pressure, give them a microphone, and let the cameras roll.